Police administration just keep playing old tapes, justifying the AIDS genocide. As Zappa used to say, if you have a complaint with me, go talk to Big Dragon. Tune says the same thing. If you don't like it, talk to Putin. It's foolish to believe people like Garland Nixon and George Galloway on the subject of the AIDS attack. It's foolish. They basically believe that it was the justified genocide and they're not going to address any of the issues. They claim that I could have saved John Lennon but was doing drugs. I was about 10 years old when Ralph Karsh came over to my house with marijuana. I tried to tell my mother. Psychological history, they just make things up. They work with Netanyahu's favorites, people like Max Blumenfeld and Tommy Gordon, put on Harvard skits about things that don't even happen, and then blame me who knew nothing about them. And they say it's a legitimate psychological profile. They're just making up stories. That's all they're doing. They're just making up stories. I didn't make any of it up. I was tortured by them. I used to dream as a child of pouring out my mother's creme de menthe, but I didn't have the courage to do it. I know we needed to clear the air of our house of the drinking so that we could be a family. No, they don't admit that. They don't admit that I was a picky eater from my mother's wording for it. Pizza was too strong for me. I wouldn't touch carbonated beverages. And they have pictures of me in horrible terror. And yet they say I went out looking to have fun with people who tortured me and gouged me. The friend of Ralph Karsh, Wattenmaker, put a nerve agent in a hallucinogen that I was traumatized into swallowing. The police administration who were responsible for it, that Cyril Wecht and Garland Nixon, say this is a nerve agent that will make you neurobehavioral research for a neurosurgeon from Attica State Prison, and you have the right not to swallow it. Did they allow me to sign a contract giving away my right to life at the age of 13? No. Yet that's the premise of the Beatles. And the evidence shows that John Lennon was in on it. He didn't even really die. That was part of the takeover mafia that now controls our media. So in other words, police administration have tortured me in a lifelong ideal for something that didn't happen in order to protect the person who they say did it when they even admit that I knew nothing about it. They're claiming that the crime was not knowing anything about it. And this is George Galloway and Max Blumenthal's position. This is Garland Nixon's position. This is what my peers believe is right and proper and fair. Does anybody ask Kathy Hayford if she thinks I should have been poisoned in the eyes? No. Did Rosa Monteleone say, we're going to detonate the neuroplasm so that out of your emergency condition of seizures, you scream and please say, please stop it, so Malala can call you a dictator? No. Did they admit that I was letting go? No. They never admitted anything. They would just sat around making up stories and replaying old tapes. That's all they did. That was their contribution to human history. And they're not concerned. The Sandbaggers, Abby Martin, Malala, Peter Gabriel, they're not the least bit concerned about their reputations. Not in the least. Because they know they live in the Tanya Who's world. And they can give him all the grief in the world about Gaza, but they're the ones that built momentum for this tragedy. The Gaza people were evidently making the old tapes in the first place, defending the idea that a nerve agent can and should be used on a deaf child to make them fear abandonment enough that Malala crooks her finger and says he's a dictator. He's possessive of his girlfriend. He's unfit, which is just making up stories. They say they read between the lines. What they do is they scribble between the lines. It's a lot easier to make up a story than address the evidence. A lot easier to go along with police poison of a nerve agent that is tried out on somebody who they call a Pink Floyd fan. I was never a Pink Floyd fan. The person who gave it to me was a Pink Floyd fan. Get that straight. There's a difference. But they're not going to say Jimmy Curry was a crybaby. He wanted to pour out his mother's cream de mint so he could talk to her about what was going on. They're not going to say that. George Galloway, Max Blumenfeld are so busy making up stories that they are evidence shy. It's a lot easier to make up a story than to look at the evidence. It's a lot easier to go along with a wolf pack like Rusted Root about a deaf person in agony from a neuroplasm than to admit the truth that they were taunting somebody who they had tortured and then they tortured me again. That's the truth. They're not concerned about their reputations. They live in the Tanya Who's world. George Galloway said, "Baby man, I need a favor.